The one question I really got to ask, though, is how do you get such salon quality hair?
You don't want to wash too much. You don't want to condition too much. It's a good balance. Sun, salt water, a lot of things affect it. A lot goes into it. Even face, you got to moisturize. I mean, it's a whole nother thing.
It's almost as tough as a training camp, I imagine. You just got to stay on top of it.
Could be tougher. It could be tougher.
Do you ever look back at those days when you had a shaved head and just think, what the fuck was I thinking?
I was just, yeah, I do. I'm like, what the hell's wrong with this kid hiding this beautiful hair? And it's like, like Samson, you cut the hair and lose the power. It's crazy, but we're fully charged now.
That's fantastic news to hear. Max Holloway, fighting this Saturday night. I think when anyone talks about this fight, they just think the word volume, right? I imagine you guys are just going to be punching forward for 25 minutes. Is that how you see it going?
Yeah, it's going to be technical, but a lot of punches are going to be thrown. It's going to be a lot of volume and violence.
When you watch his fights, like you've had some brilliant wars recently, especially with one for the Alvarez, Gaethje fights. They're great. Do you think, I've got another one coming my way on Saturday?
Definitely. I think we're going to get fight of the night, and it's going to be another one for the history books. Fight of the year type of fight. Just because of the technique level and the toughness of Max and the technique level we're both going to bring. It's going to be.
I think when people ask fighters like, oh, what do you see his weakness as? I'd rather flip it around a bit. What do you see his best attributes as? When you see him fight, what do you think, I cannot let that happen to me?
Him get into a good rhythm, start pulling away. You see it in other fights. He gets into a great rhythm and starts just. It's like a snowball. His momentum gets bigger and bigger and bigger as the rounds go on. And I got to disrupt that. I got to interrupt his rhythm. I got to make it uncomfortable for him.
You were asked about this yesterday, and I don't want to go on the same subject, but you fought him before, you won that fight. Is it just too long ago to even think about?
Yeah, it's cool to say that I beat the guy sitting next to me right here, but that's so long ago. It's a lifetime in mixed martial arts. Guys don't even have careers 7 years in the UFC, much less fighting for a title 7 years later. We're both different fighters.
Do you get the impression at all that, obviously Khabib is next for who wins this fight. Do you get the impression, because maybe they were booked again before, that maybe people are more talking about Holloway versus Khabib than yourself? Do you get that impression?
I haven't really been reading into it that much, but I can't because it's not a possibility until Saturday happens. So we'll cross that bridge after Saturday.
It's always interesting to hear fighters say, I can't focus on anymore, because I think people who aren't fighters almost can't relate to that. They're like, well, you must think about stuff. Is that something you actually have to consciously say, I'm getting too far ahead of myself backwards, or is it just come naturally at this point?
A little bit of both. Sometimes I'll have to say, all right, we got to, the thing is, knowing I still have this weight cut ahead of me, knowing 25 minutes with one of the best in the world is waiting for me Saturday night, a pound for pound list guy. I just know how much it's going to take of me to make that, to get that even, to get my hand raised. I know how much it's going to take of me, and it's so hard to look past that. I have so much work to do from now until Sunday morning, and that's really all that my attention goes to.
Do you mentioned the weight cut now. It's obviously no fun. Do you just think, like, same with the hair, how did I even get to 145?
Exactly. I can never make 145 again. I never will. If anything, I'll go up.
Really? Is that a possibility?
Definitely a possibility.
Now that's interesting. Why do you say that? Just you feel as you get older, the body's getting bigger still, or what makes you say that?
Yeah, my body's just getting heavier, more dense. Things change as you get older, and 55 is not fun to make anymore. Not that fighting has to be fun 100% of the time, but I just want to be healthy in there. That's what it comes down to.
How do you think you stack up against the bigger guys? Like, Stephen Thompson's a big guy, Tyron Woodley's a big guy. How do you look at yourself compared to those guys?
Those guys, that's the thing. Those guys are so long. It's not so much the size. Woodley's size is big, but I don't know. I stopped Pettis, and he just stopped Stephen Thompson. So MMA math doesn't make sense, but yeah.
Does that give you extra confidence? You see Gaethje did, what Pettis did, over the past couple of weeks. You see, you beat these guys. Going into a fight, does that kind of reaffirm where you stand in your own mind, or just not play in at all?
Anybody you fight, win, lose, or draw, you want to see them do well in their next fights.
Sure.
And it's cool to see back-to-back main events against guys that I just finished, get stoppage wins in huge fights leading up to my fight, for the title. It's kind of cool. It's like, it just shows you why I'm here.
Conversely, though, what did you make of Eddie's performance in one the other day? He sort of got stopped in his first performance over there. What did you make of that?
That's tough to say. I know his eye got jacked up real bad, but Eddie's had a lot of wars, you know, and I think he's towards the end. We all know he knows that he's toward the end of his career. Backstage in Calgary, when I stopped him, I went into the medical room and shook his hand and say, "Hey, I know we said a lot of things about each other, but it's over now." And he told me this might be his last fight. So yeah.
I'm only going to ask you this because you're a man who's been in loads of wars. Did you happen to see Artem Lobov's bare knuckle fight with Jason Knight the other day?
Yeah, brutal, man. Yeah, I watched that.
What was that like? Give us your thoughts on the fight, just because it was insane to watch myself.
It was brutal, man. It was borderline, like, and I like the carnage. You know, I like to watch two guys go at it in a classic fight, but that was brutal. Me and Mike were just talking about it, about like people who've never been to a mixed martial arts fight. When they first go to their first event, they sit close, they can feel the punches. It's one thing to watch it on TV and see how hard these guys are hitting each other, but it's another thing to feel the impact and really witness it in the flesh. So I can only imagine if it was like that for me on TV, like watching through my fingers, like, oh my God, these guys are insane. I only imagine ringside how it was, hearing the bone on bone, and it must have been. Part of me loves it, but a part of me is like, 9 out of 10 doctors say don't do it.
I mean, it was a unique experience. I was there. It was intense, I think is the word.
Yeah, it was insane. That's fighting, yeah.